Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World. I am now in Denver, Colorado on the next leg of the Black Economic Empowerment Tour, about to head to Las Vegas and then New York City after that. After that, I'm going to spend some time getting ready for the next stage. As you know, we got some projects out in LA that we're trying to finish up. I'll keep you posted on that. Now, one of the things I wanted to hit up on real quick was this interview I just saw between Steve Harvey and Bishop Eddie Long. Um, I thought the interview was interesting, in the sense that, you wouldn't expect this kind of interview to take place, but I think Bishop Long has a new book out, and I assume, promoting the book has something to do with the decision to make this interview, which is fine. People do interviews to promote their books, nothing wrong with that. The interview was interesting because I think anybody who has any type of conscience and decency has to reflect on whether or not it's appropriate to give an overbearing voice to a person who's accused of what Bishop Long's been accused of. In case you don't know, there were some young men. I want to get their names here because I think we should say their names because they say that they were victims of this, and I believe that there was a lot of evidence to that effect. Maurice Robinson, Anthony Flagg, and Jamal Paris, who all filed separate lawsuits back in 2010, basically claiming that the pastor coerced them into sexual relationships. Much of this coercion took place when they were underage. They even did things like hold covenant ceremonies with jewelry and candles and things like that, according to their accusations. Well, these allegations were they had enough evidence and gained enough momentum that there was a lot of pressure for the bishop to resign. He did not resign, and then suddenly there's the settlement of the lawsuit, and out comes this gag order. And it's interesting because Bishop Long, while he will seem to not want to answer serious questions about the accusations, and he will reference that this court order says he can't speak. He doesn't really say who put that court order in place. From what I saw, the victims had a lot to say. The victims were speaking a lot before the settlement and the gag order, or whatever it was that was in the contract was put in place. So I can't imagine them saying, "Well, we don't want anybody talking about this. We don't want nobody talking about the fact that we think this man, did some pretty horrible things to us." Some thoughts that I kind of had on this. Steve Harvey he's a good interviewer, a smart guy. I don't know what happened behind the scenes in terms of who decided to do the interview. I don't know if Steve wanted to do the interview and thought it might get ratings, or if Bishop Long said, "Hey, buddy, I need you to do me a favor." I don't know. I know they have a history. I know they have a friendship, which inherently speaks to one very simple fact, which is that if this interview with Bishop Long is going to happen with Steve Harvey, then I think there should be other interviews with neutral parties who are not just going to ask the hard questions, but are going to push to get answers to the hard questions. See, because Steve, I saw that he asked some of these tough questions. Did you ever have sexual relations with these young men? He asked a couple other questions like that, and each time Bishop Long would say, "Well, according to this legal thing, I can't talk about it." And I think that's an unfortunately inconvenient or very convenient answer that Bishop Long can deliver to avoid really kind of dealing with this issue. The other thought that kind of came to mind is that I saw Bishop Long kind of mentioning that he was suicidal at one point during the ordeal. He talked about the haters, people who were being negative and focusing on the negative by dealing with him a certain way because he was accused of doing these things to these young boys. And I would ask, very humbly, was that negative? I mean, is that really being negative? Is protecting children negative? Is speaking out against somebody who might very likely be a child molester or whatever it is that they're saying. I wasn't there. I just know what's been seen. I saw, the evidence and some of the things that were going on, and it disturbed me. I know a lot of people were very disturbed by this. And so I don't think that you can call someone a hater or say that they're just focusing on the negative because they're uncomfortable with certain choices that you might have made behind closed doors. I think that there is certainly a tremendous fear and a discomfort many of us have with this idea that this person who had tremendous power, was given tremendous trust, might have, abused that trust by taking advantage of young children. I will say this. I think that Steve made a very good point in that he said, "I just wanted people to hear you," and I'm a big fan of that. If you see anything that I've said, I've always been a big believer in letting people speak their piece. But I would also say that if for Steve Harvey, if you want people to hear Eddie Long, then you need to let people hear the victims. You should bring the victims onto the show as well so that people can hear both sides. Because if you don't do that, then what you're doing is you're giving a voice to your buddy, and you're shutting out the pain of those who might have gone through the most horrific abuse known to man. Sure, it's tough that Eddie Long lost a ton of members in his church. It's tough that he might have been suicidal. It's tough that he was on the brink of divorce. It's tough that he suffered depression. But can you imagine what it would be like to have a pastor, a father figure, a man you look up to, a man that you love, a man that you trust with your life, wanting to try to have sex with you, and you're too young to even really understand how sex even works? And the thing about it, here's the thing that we got to understand is that this is happening all throughout our community, happening everywhere, and we ain't saying nothing about it. We sit there quietly because somebody's got some power and money and stature, and we'll sit there and we'll just say, oh, well, it's okay. It's not, yeah. He did this thing to those kids, but I'm not gonna give him a hard time about it. And I would say, no, you can't do that. I know abuse victims. Yolanda Spivey, for example, is one person who spoke, quite vocally about this, and she was a victim, and she says that she didn't even approve of the interview at all. And while I don't know if Eddie Long does not have the right to speak, but I do think that sometimes we can pay too much attention to the pain of the person who was accused and attacked and vilified, and not pay attention to what happened to the victims. So what I would just simply say is that if Steve Harvey wants to let Bishop Eddie Long, speak his piece, bring the victims on the show too, so they can speak their piece as well, so everybody can hear every side of the story, and it doesn't just appear to be somebody helping out his friend who's trying to sell a book, who's trying to play the victim, who's trying to redeem himself in the public eye. I know all those things are happening. That's fine. It is what it is. But you cannot forget about the victims as well. That's extremely important. So that's all I really want to say about this. I'm about to get out of here, guys. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins. By the way, as I mentioned, we're going to Las Vegas and New York City next. If you want to know more, you can visit the drboycewatkinstour.com. Also, don't forget, this weekend on June 4th, we start the next Black Wealth Boot Camp. If you'd like to join, visit theBlackWealthBootCamp.com. That's where we talk about getting off the corporate plantation and all the things that I can teach you as a finance professor. And I guarantee you're going to love it. It's going to be the greatest thing you ever saw in your life. I guarantee it. At least better than any college class you ever took. That's for sure. So anyway, I'm out of here, guys. Take care. Love you. Peace.